Okay, welcome to ThinkTech, raising public awareness about technology, energy, globalism, and diversification right here in Hawaii. So as part of the ThinkTech series, today's show is Island Perspectives, and we're going to talk today about a guy who wrote a book. Okay, I'm Jay Fidell, and my guest sitting next to me over here is Dave Cheever, who I have observed and followed and admired for a very long time.
Thank you.
Why is that? Because Dave is not only a bike rider, but he's a guy who has owned bike shops. And anybody who has the chutzpah to own a bike shop,
true,
can't be all bad. So we're going to talk about a book that Dave wrote called Traveler. Okay, Traveler, right there. And it's a novel by Dave Cheever. And it's about adventure and romance and turmoil and discovery. Remember that we broadcast live on the internet at 2 and 4 p.m. every weekday. All our shows are streamed on ustream.tv and Spreaker.com. And if you want the links to our live streams or our previous broadcasts, just go to thinktechhawaii.com. If you ever want to join us in our downtown studio and be a member of our studio guest for any of our shows, just write to me, jay@thinktechhawaii.com. Okay, let me just say that I used to ride bike, and you know it.
Yes.
So I was a racing bike in the 70s and into the 80s. And then through the 80s, I rode everywhere. I rode all the islands, and I loved bike. I believe in bike. For me, it's spiritual. Unfortunately, I gave it up, as many people do, but I still have a bunch of bikes,
Good.
Really good Italian bikes.
Right, right. Good.
So I want to first, before we get too serious about the novel, I want to know more about you, Dave. Tell us about your infatuation with bicycles, okay?
I think it started at age 8 when I decided, my father wouldn't buy me my own bike, and so I borrowed my sister's bike, which is a girl's bike, to my great embarrassment, even at 8, and headed out my family's driveway in a little town in Massachusetts to ride to my grandmother's, which was 4 miles away. The sense of freedom, the wonder of it all, I couldn't believe it. Little tiny town, not much traffic. So I made my way to my grandmother's, and she was shocked. What are you doing here? And when I rode back, my mother just gave me double ephus, and I didn't care. I didn't care. It was so much fun, and seriously, from then on, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens at an early age.
Yeah,
you get the wind in your face.
Yeah, really.
I remember my own experience, which comes to mind immediately, and I think we must be around the same age. Huh?
Probably.
I was a kid. I was, I'm sure less than 10, and I was riding down to Rockaway, New York, which was had to be 15 miles away from my house. I went with a buddy, and we rode down this beautiful street on the way to the beach.
Yep.
In Brooklyn, through Brooklyn it was. And I said, what a liberation.
Yeah.
That I could, my own self, I could go so far, so fast. I could control my
destiny. Didn't need anybody else.
Right. Nobody had to drive.
Yeah,
And so then, you realize that this is something you can keep for life.
Yeah. It was the impact was tremendous. I mean, the sense of I can go anywhere. And I don't need anybody, and I certainly don't need anybody to tell me where to go or that I shouldn't have gone there. And even today, that's verboten. If someone says, if I'm riding with someone, they say, well, no, you need to turn over there. No. You need to not tell me where to go on a bike, because that's what it's about, is I can go anywhere, whenever I want, and that's an immense satisfaction.
So this book, to get to the book, which is, a novel of, I would make maybe 250 pages, am I right? See how close I am. 220 some odd pages.
Yeah.
This came to you because of your love affair with bikes.
Correct.
And it is about cycling.
Right.
Tell us what brought you to this book.
Well, I should mention that I've done 7 nonfiction books.
All about bikes?
No. None of them about bikes.
Okay.
So that's one piece. The other piece is that I have done just about everything in the bike business that you can do. I've worked on the city's master bike plan. I've written articles about biking. I've owned 2 stores. And so ultimately, of course, I have to write a novel about a bike. I mean,
I don't know why you waited so
long. That's right. Because it's difficult. That's why.
Yeah.
But the bike, the book actually, the bike is a device to make the book work. Obviously, I mean, it isn't. focus just on this 1980 Schwinn Traveler. But when I owned a little used bike store, nonprofit, at the corner of Poa and Pacific Heights Road, which I started.
I remember this, right across the Shell station.
Yeah,
there.
it's a tiny little puka, and it was fun. It was really fun, and we took donated bikes and rehabbed them and sold them, and gave the money to KVI, which is the bike program in Kalihi for the disadvantaged kids. So that was the formula, and it worked. It worked fine. But donated bikes are, you'd be surprised. The bikes that are hanging in people's garages or carports or on their lanai. And so one day we're very busy at Wiki Bikes, and a very tall, handsome gentleman walked in with a kid's bike in the left hand and a road bike in his right hand. And he's, I was busy, and he said, "Do you want these bikes?" And I looked, the kid bike, sure, fine. But the road bike was a classic Schwinn Traveler. I could tell. And I said, "Of course I want it." He said, "Well, let me just tell you that this bike," I'm a doctor, and this bike I bought in Boston in 1980, a Schwinn Traveler, and it took me to medical school every day for 4 years. It was as important to me as my
Got
books.
me through medical school.
Yeah, it did. He said, I've owned it all this time. I'm giving it up reluctantly. I thought, now there's a story. There's the story. So that's how the book starts, as a young guy being admitted to medical school in Boston.
And riding a
Schwinn Traveler, 1980.
Schwinn Traveler.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, just a footnote, and I don't want to interfere with the timeline of your discussion, but in those days, Schwinn made some fabulous bikes.
Yeah.
We're not talking about some clunky kid's
No,
bike.
no.
They made something called the Paramount. Do you
Oh,
remember
sure.
the Paramount?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
This was the finest piece of
Yeah,
American
yeah.
bike manufacturing that ever happened
Yeah,
in this country.
Yeah.
And I owned one.
Yeah.
And the
They were
softest
fun.
ride, the
They were
best
fine
bike
bike.
it was.
Yeah, they were. This is not as, a Schwinn Traveler is not as sophisticated as that. What I couldn't find in all the research I did, which wasn't a whole lot, is what they cost in 1980. And so I had to estimate. But I did go to Richard Schwinn, who actually took when the company went broke and disappeared, he took the Paramount name. And because they wouldn't allow him to use Schwinn, I mean, he's the grandson of Ignaz Schwinn, who started the damn thing. And so he renamed it Waterford, and he has a company in Wisconsin called Waterford Bicycles. So I went to Richard Schwinn saying, "Hey, I need you to make comment about this book, or tell me what about the 1980 Schwinn Traveler, because you were there." So we've been talking, and it's quite interesting. I mean, it's quite interesting.
Well, that's the guy on the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
By genetics, anyway.
Yeah, I know,
If not
I
by
know.
business ownership.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so the Doctor and the
Yeah.
Schwinn Traveler,
Yeah.
which is an apparent, an apparently perfect name for a book called Traveler. It's like a double entendre.
Yeah,
Is it the
right.
person? Is it the bike? What is it?
Yeah.
Maybe it's spiritual.
Yeah. It is.
So tell us the setup. I mean, what set of facts are we dealing with in this bike? Where does the action start?
Well, it starts in Boston, and a young guy who's had a lot of trouble, a good, excellent student, but a lot of trouble being admitted to medical school because of something in his background in Boulder, Colorado, and there's a chapter in there about that, which, of course, is all fictional, but he finally is admitted to Tufts, and he has a very old, rusty, cruddy old bike, and he says to his wife, no, I don't want a new bike. This one's going to be fine. I'm going to ride it to school every day, the doctor again. And so one night he leaves the campus in his first year, and it's raining. And as you know, you're from the East, right? The roads are terrible, especially in Boston.
No worse than Honolulu.
Okay, all right.
Excuse me.
Okay, all right. So it's nighttime and it's raining, and he hits a pothole because it's filled with water, and he doesn't realize it. And the bike, the front wheel, he tumbles, and he has a terrible time. So now he's without a bike, and he's got the T and the subway system in Boston does not run from where he's living to Tufts, so he has no choice. So he and his wife make their way down Huntington Avenue to a Schwinn store, and they buy the 1980 Schwinn Traveler. And he is so happy.
Which at the time was brand new.
Absolutely. Bright red. Bright red.
And any kid, including any grown-up
Yeah,
kid, would
yeah.
love to have.
I'd love to have one today. Unfortunately, the one the guy gave me at Wiki Bikes, I sold.
Ooh.
Afterwards, I said, wait, I want it back. But I sold it.
Footnote about my Paramount. My buddy and I were riding down Kalaniani Highway and at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, and some kid hit us, the two of us. It was
Really?
like a spare in bowling, bunk, bunk. And the two of us flew off the road. We wound up in the hospital, the two of us in gurneys in Queens Hospital. And that was a bad moment. The bikes, both bikes were pretzeled, okay? And the insurance company bought the bikes from me.
Yeah.
I mean, the Paramount bike, they bought it from me. And it was, it was serviceable, but it had been, and it's not pristine anymore. You don't feel the same way about it. You don't have the same sense of reliability. It's not your steed, your golden steed.
Yeah.
6 months later, I get a call from a guy. He wants to sell me my Paramount.
Oh, no. You're kidding.
He says he looked up the accident, he went to the police report, and he thought I'd be interested in recapturing the Paramount.
Yeah. With probably a bent frame.
Right,
Yeah,
I let it go.
Of course, yeah.
Anyway, yes,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So
yeah. Anyway, so actually, the doctor isn't the center of the story. He's very important periodically. It gets the story started. By the way, let me digress for a moment.
it's okay.
I am 75.
Okay.
And at my age, most people have a great deal of anxiety about dementia. Being able to think through certain things. My advice, write a novel, because it will test your mental acuity like never before.
It's exercise for the mind.
Because you can't drop certain things. You've got to keep it going or
Sure,
get rid of it
threads.
somehow,
Yes.
and so on and so forth. So I recommend, if you are worried about your mental state at all, even if your mental state is fine, write a novel.
Well, how did you keep? I mean, I wanted to ask you this. It may sound like a surprise, but I did want to ask you this. How do you keep track of the facts, the people, the events, which you have to keep? You have to keep those threads.
Yeah,
How
exactly.
do you do that?
That's probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And I screwed up a couple of times, frankly, because you start out a character. Every novel is about the person who goes out in the world and slays dragons and comes back differently.
Sure.
With
The
a different-
dynamic of the character.
That's every novel you can think of. Somehow that's the way it works.
Yeah.
So they have to change, because that's what the book is about. If you don't get the satisfaction that someone has learned something along the way, you're not happy as a reader. So the character has to stay the same somewhat, because you can't change behavior so radically, but you need to have them change. That was the biggest challenge that I could think of. And to keep it straight is pretty hard. And I will say this, I had a wonderful local editor by the name of Lynn Shizumura. And she would say to me things like, I said to her, before I'd finished the book, I went to Lynn and I said, Lynn, is the concept there, before I finished it, is the concept there? Does it make sense? Does it pull together? And she said yes. And so that's when I went ahead. But one of the challenges, this is 1980, well actually, the book really starts after he graduates from medical school in Tufts and is sent to Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. But she said to me, Dave, well, try writing a book where there's no internet, no cell phone. I mean, because it's an accident, and how do you get the word? How do you get the ambulance anyway? So she said to me a couple of times, the book feels to me like it was written in the year 2000, not 1984. And so I said, well, how am I going to fix that? So, of course, you go to Google, you put in 1980s culture, food, clothing, songs, everything.
Little pieces out of it.
Yeah. So what I did was I put several songs from the 80s.
Oh, perfect.
Which, certainly dates it. So that's the way I got over that one.
Dave, we're going to take a short break now.
Sure.
Give us a chance to regroup, get our thoughts together.
All right, all
Avoid any dementia whatsoever. Okay.
Yeah, please.
This is ThinkTech with Dave Cheever. We're talking about Traveler, a novel, his new novel book. We're talking about bicycles and writing and thinking and enjoying life. Okay, we'll be right back after this break.
Great, good, good.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're ThinkTech, and we're raising public awareness about technology, energy, globalism, and diversification here with David Cheever, who just published a book called Traveler, a novel. Okay, and we're exploring that novel, what it means to write it, and what it means to read it, and what it means to get into the mood about traveling on a 1980 Schwinn Traveler. No pun intended. Okay, I told you we were going to have a show about Davids.
Yeah.
Just Davids. So, we're going to keep looking for Davids, David. Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about the economics. You know, you mentioned in the break that you'd published a bunch of books, but you'd never actually self-published before.
Right.
So give me the distinction when you publish with a publisher or when you publish yourself.
Real simple. When you have a publisher, he or she takes the risk. When you self-publish, you have the risk.
Okay.
And it's obvious. When I did a coffee table book called Pohaku with Gaylord Wilcox and his little publishing company called Editions Limited, I mean, he put up $75,000. It was a very expensive, big, what's it called?
The cost of printing, mostly.
Yeah, case-bound book. But look, let's face it. You cannot. Think about this. The printer in Korea that printed Pohaku in 2003, I think, had to get all that paper, all the ink, run it through a press, put a hardcover on it, put it in a box, send it to Hong Kong, ship it to Honolulu. That doesn't make sense. That no longer makes any sense. And then, of course, Traveler was a local book. If it was a book to be nationally distributed, it would have to go in a warehouse in Los Angeles and then be dispersed out to Borders or Barnes & Noble. Those days are very, very numbered. I mean, there's just very little chance of that. I mean, so today, self-publishing is not the dirty word it once was. At one time it was, oh, poor thing, vanity press.
Poor guy, nobody wants to back him, he's all by himself.
Yeah, right. And so the difference is that I used a company called Author House, and there are lots of self-publishers today, including Amazon has one called, I think, Creative Spaces or Creative Solutions or whatever. And why did I use Author House? I'm not absolutely sure, but what you do, and I should have seen it, I'm a marketer, right? They market you like you cannot believe. I mean, they are the best hustlers in the world, and of course, it makes sense because every time they hustle me and I buy something, I pay for it, right? The package I bought was, I think it cost $950 or something to get the book in this form. You send them a Word document, you get it back. Mm-hmm. But this is print on demand. And,
Yeah, so, but before you get it back, you're just sending him words. You're not
Yes.
sending him the cover graphic right
No,
now?
no.
And you're not sending him anything special
Illustration
from
to-
inside?
No.
They, with the $900,
Yeah.
they create this product
That's
right
correct. They paginate it. They will they'll do anything you want, and I chose to have it edited here because
here. But they would have edited for
they
you.
would have for an additional charge. So they have many packages, and marketing is something we can either talk about now or
I'd
later.
like
'Cause
to. I mean, you have great expertise in that area.
it's one thing to write it. It's one thing to publish it. The real work is
Getting it
marketing
out there, yeah. That's why we're here today, Dave.
Yeah, okay. So one of their packages, though, they have PR packages and marketing packages and this, that, and the next thing. One of them they have is a Hollywood package, where they claim that they will go to agents and try to sell it as a movie. And I declined to buy that one. I thought, I don't think so. I mean, it's a wonderful book. I love it, but, I think that's probably a stretch. So
Why? I mean, theoretically,
Well,
a novel, every novel
yeah.
is potentially a movie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
why did you hold back on that?
$7,500.
That's why. Fair enough.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Well, if you're willing, they were not willing to have me pay them a small amount, and if it got sold, to share in the revenue. They weren't willing to do that.
Yeah. No contingent fees.
No,
here.
no. So you're right. You would know. So I mean, it's a good outfit. But would I use them again if I do another novel? I don't know. I don't know. I think I would go to Amazon because this is on Amazon, by the way. You can't buy this in a bookstore because what's the point? I mean, you have to have inventory. I have a few books in my office up in Pacific Heights, but in today's world, I mean, if you go into Barnes & Noble in Ala Moana, have you been in that store?
No.
It's huge. It's a storage bin for paper. And nobody can afford, they can't afford Ala Moana prices to store paper
Yeah.
any longer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
over.
It's over. And so people say to me, well, I want to hold a book. Okay, great. This book you can get on Amazon. They keep changing the price, and I'm not sure how they do that, but paperback, it's about between $17 and $20, depending upon how they're.
That's the range
Yeah,
that you're
yeah,
paying
yeah.
these days.
Ebook is $4.
Really? That's
Yeah.
cheap.
And I do actually better when people buy it on ebook.
Really?
Yeah,
You get a big.
yeah.
You get more money.
Yeah,
cash,
I
absolute
don't
money.
get much. I don't
Yeah,
get much.
yeah.
But and so today, on the email that I send out on this thing to people that I think might be in, I think I sent you the email. I hope I did. There's just there's an illustration of the book, some headline, a little bit of copy, and then buy it now, and the button at the bottom goes right to.
And you can
this book.
download it within a second.
Absolutely. And because someone said to me, if you say go to Amazon to buy it, and you put in Traveler, there's 200 books in Amazon with the word Traveler in the title. So nobody wants to click twice today. So boom, right to it.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So email to a link.
Yeah.
The link takes you
Right.
right there to download it.
Right.
And you're done.
Yep.
I just came back from a trip. And in the past I've always taken books with me on trips because there's moments when you need to have something to read,
Right,
whatever.
right.
I mean,
Yep, yep.
long periods of travel, and whatnot.
Right.
But in this case, I downloaded 3 books on my telephone, my cell phone,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And my cell phone has the ability. I can read it even in little type. I can open it up and read it. And I had a great time reading
Yeah,
books
yeah,
on my
yeah,
cell phone.
yeah.
For weeks I was doing that. And so I discovered myself that it's a better deal to download it
Yeah.
instead of leaving it on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Or forgetting it.
Yeah, you're right. Losing it somehow.
Yeah.
So that's the big question. I mean, it sort of goes automatically, doesn't it? If you self-publish on Amazon, one methodology or another,
Right.
you're automatically doing a download kind of arrangement. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, otherwise, first of all, Barnes & Noble isn't interested in this thing at all. I mean, I'm a local author. They might order a few in Ala Moana, and we might do a book signing. I've done book signings where a lot of people show up. If I chum the water a lot, or nobody shows up, like when we used to have reporters at Pearl Ridge. I mean, I did a big
How could
thing.
I forget?
Yeah, right. A big book signing on Pohaku, the big coffee table book. Sold not a single book. And so, book signings are also a thing of the past.
Thing of the past.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely thought. And I've done them, and it is fun. But you really have to chum the water. You've got to send out to every soul that you know. And if it's at 10:30 at a store, they've either got to be there. Whereas if you send an email saying, here's the link, you can buy it, they can buy it anytime they want. So it's
Another side of that whole question is: are people reading books these days?
no.
That's I get that too.
Well, Richard, I told you I went to Richard Schwinn about this thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this is a gold mine. I mean, here's the guy whose family, this 1980 Schwinn Traveler, model. And he came back to me and he said, Dave, it's been about a dozen years since I read a novel. Oh, okay, that's not good. But no, I mean, the data I recall is that 6% of the adult population over 18, I guess, in the United States, even goes into a bookstore, much less buys something. 6%.
And this is recent. I mean, this is within
Yeah.
one generation.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
changed
yeah,
so
yeah.
dramatically, and it's all because of the internet. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Thing is, at the one extreme, Twitter for 140 characters, you can't get much of a novel in there, or even a thought, for that matter. That leads to dementia. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
And the other is that people just don't. They read differently, just as they write differently. So, did you write this for paper, or did you write this for the internet? You agree with me that it's a different writing style.
Yeah. Yes. I think I wrote it for this, for the book itself, recognizing that, and I won't know how this thing is doing until I think Amazon sends me something every quarter. Mm-hmm. So I won't have a clue as to what it's doing until next month. But I would bet you that the majority of the sales, not by a lot, are still paper, even though ebook is much cheaper. You can also buy it, by the way, directly from the publisher author house, and I think I'm not sure of the price. I am not sure of the price because they change it, as Amazon does.
I don't know, this is somehow troubling for me. I mean, I like novels and I like books, but I think the whole idea is going out the window. And with it, the literary sophistication of the public. And that means the world.
Yeah.
People are reading this stuff. I mean, nobody's sitting around reading Kierkegaard right now. That's over. So how can we have those lofty thoughts? Those drill down cerebral moments.
Well, did you read the paper this morning about the decline of the humanities? I mean, there you go. It's exactly the same thing. It's symptomatic of the bike business as well. When you were a kid, when I was a kid, 8 years old, I wanted a bike so badly. Nowadays, a kid's got his mother's cell phone. My 4-year-old grandson is constantly on his mother's phone or her iPad. And he has a bike, of course I gave him a bike. And he sort of looks at it like he's sort of interested, but not really. So the internet has affected just everything. The bike business is, I would say, you and I still buy bikes, and maybe the people who are 25 on up buy bikes, but kids are not interested anymore.
Are they interested in sports?
They are, but I've been to soccer games where one sibling is out on the field playing, the other is, playing a game on either his Xbox or whatever it's called. I mean, so, can you imagine when you were a kid having a phone where you could, do just about anything?
It fascinates people. It empowers them.
Yes.
It occupies their mind. They're in a state of awe all day long. I am, aren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I say to myself, how lucky I am to be alive at a time when our whole human race is being transformed, intellectually transformed, and yet there's a loss every day.
Oh, of course. There's always a trade-off.
wouldn't it be better to go back to the 50s and take a walk on the railroad track behind your house, you know?
Yeah.
Take a hike up the hill. We're going to take a short break.
Sure, sure.
Think about the hike, you know?
Yeah,
We're going to take a short hike now.
Okay.
That's Dave Cheever. He wrote a book. It's called Traveler, a Novel. And this is ThinkTech, and we're having a good time exploring not only the literary aspects, but the societal aspects of self-publication.
Well, I mean, it's there. There's no turning back.
We'll be right back. This is ThinkTech. Okay, welcome back. This is ThinkTech. We're live. We're happy. We're raising public awareness about technology, energy, globalism, diversification, and mankind's most perfect machine, the bicycle. The center, in many ways, the center of Dave Cheever's life, but certainly the center of his book, The Traveler, a novel by Dave Cheever, which was published, self-published, only a short while ago. Let me look. What year? Oh, 2013, this year?
Yeah.
Only a few months, so we're a hot copy.
Oh,
of
yes,
this.
only a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I hope you're going to give me this book.
Absolutely.
'Cause I want a special Dave Cheever
Yes,
autograph.
absolutely. You're going to get it.
So here we are, and you bring so much to the table in terms of advertising, marketing, understanding, you know, the public coming together over promotional things. And you were in the advertising business for a
Correct.
long time here in Hawaii.
Right.
And you did that at the same time you owned all these bike shops.
Yeah.
Wow, it's, you know, schizophrenic, pardon
Yes,
me.
oh, definitely.
So, but in the advertising business, you learn how to affect public thinking.
Yeah.
Which is really it's a talent, a skill, an intuition, if you will, that's hard to come by. And if you've done it for a long time, you must be good at it.
Well, thank you. Actually, I was head of marketing for Bank of Hawaii right across the Fortune Mall for many years, and then went out on my own after that. So, okay, you write the book, you publish it, now what? Marketing. And as I mentioned, most publishers are not great marketers. They, know how to get the book together and, talk to agents and so on and so forth. So many times, even if you have a publisher, marketing the book falls to you to do. In this case, you can either buy programs, as I mentioned, from the publisher author house and pay a king's ransom for them, including the Hollywood package for $7,500, or you can choose to do it yourself. Now, my ego is wrapped up in marketing this thing, because if I can't market my own product,
What-
especially with that buildup.
Yeah, right. Especially with that buildup. I mean, if you can't, then my God, it undermines your entire career.
Yes, I know. I'll have to move,
Couldn't face yourself in the mirror.
get on my bike and travel.
It's coming.
Yeah, really. As I mentioned to Jay earlier, the thing that's fascinating is, I mean, this is a different world. This is not buying television. Bank of Hawaii, I bought a lot of television and the newspaper, and we had two, and radio stations and so on and so forth. In today's world, and I'm going to see if it can be done with social media. Let's put it that way. So the first effort that I made was to send about 400 emails in an email blast that has just a brief copy, has the cover of the book, brief copy, and a button or a link right directly to the Amazon.
To the download.
Yeah. So that it's interesting. I don't know how many books are sold, because Amazon will only give me my account and my check quarterly. So I won't know next
You
month.
never know exactly what they've done.
Yeah, I know.
You have to trust them on a check.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that, so you know, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, StumbleUpon, Digger, Instagram, Pinterest, all of those, Pinterest, yeah, are out there and can be used. Now, at my age, I didn't grow up with it, so it is still quite mystifying to me. Not quite, but it's you know. So I hired a student, wonderful young lady by the name of Justine, and she's helping me through this whole thing.
What does she do for you?
Well, she's helping me, for instance, use Facebook. Facebook is a lot of criticism of Facebook. So, you know, there's a big movement against it, which of course even validates it more.
I
you know,
agree.
yeah, makes it
You know, they really made it when there's a movement against them.
banned in Boston. I would hope.
Shay.
Anyway, so for instance, I have a number of people on Facebook that I didn't send the email blast to. Likewise, I have a number of people on LinkedIn, which is oh, I'm so sorry. How do I?
It must be one of your followers.
Can I throw it in a tank of water or something?
It's okay. It happens all the time. We don't encourage it, but then we don't get excited about it.
Well, I was
either.
at a birthday party where my phone went off, and the only thing I could think to do, a big birthday party.
Throw it in the water in the
No,
pool.
say, oh, hi, Michelle. Barack wants to talk to me. Oh, okay. I think you did that. I got it from you when you talked Exchange. Didn't you do that? You did. I stole it from you.
I did that once actually at a conference where I was one of the speakers at the table. My phone rang and I said, "Hi, there's a few hundred people here who'd like to hear from you. So would you mind addressing?" And he did.
Is that right? Yeah. No, I stole that idea from you.
Good,
It was good.
good.
It was great. Let's see. So social media. But those are only the beginning. If you go to talk about Google, if you go to Google and do online book reviews, just hundreds of them. So there's that. Because this book follows it. Actually, the teenager is the book. It isn't the doctor necessarily. He's sort of the big uncle.
Well, we have to have a little time here where you actually tell us how this unfolds.
Yeah.
But going back to the social media thing, one point about the reviews. How do you capitalize on the reviews? You have the online book.
Right.
People buy it. Some of them are inclined to
Yeah.
write a little review.
Yeah.
What do you do with the review to help promote the book?
Well, there are two. Of course, that you can put an online review on Amazon, and then I have a blog. So you can say, I hate the book, or I love the book, or whatever. And that's all part of it today.
This is a big thing because
Oh, yeah.
reviews. I mean, I was
Yeah.
going to
Oh,
ask
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Reviews really sell books.
Yeah,
I mean, a
yeah.
good review anyway
Yeah,
sells
yeah.
books.
What I started to say was the teenager who's running away finally steals or borrows the bike from his mother, who bought it from the doctor. He goes out into the world and grows up. He's 18, turns 18 but he goes to Alexandria, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, Columbus, Georgia, Tallahassee, Florida, New Orleans, and Laredo, Texas. And that's his route. So, okay, those cities all have newspapers. So each of the editors has gotten one of these. Now, let me tell you.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they'll do with it. That's the other problem. I don't know how it used to be you get a clipping service. I don't know if there's such a thing any longer.
Oh, yeah.
But let me tell you about books reviewed by newspapers. The Washington Post. I mean, part of the book takes place in Arlington, Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia, and the district. So, of course, I sent one to this guy who is the book editor of the Washington Post. I happen to have seen him on an NPR public television show talking about reviewing books today. I think he said, I get 125 books a day. Now, how do you break through? I doubt it. But anyway, so I said, so, in today's, it's just very tough to break through. Very tough. And, you've heard the stories about someone, maybe if I rode a Schwinn Traveler nude or got someone to ride one nude, maybe I could get it on YouTube or something, I don't know. But you hear about these things, and then suddenly there are 14 million people who looked at it, and the thing takes off.
But you intimate what happened here in the action was that the doctor is not the protagonist of this.
No, it's not.
It was sold. The bike was. This is. What it sounds like, the Red Violin. Remember
Yeah.
It has a history.
Yeah.
And you follow the object, and the object takes you to
Yeah.
spectacular things.
Yeah, the bicycle, it is not really a story about a bicycle. It's a device. It's a device I use to move the book along. But you're right, it's and this kid is interesting because, and it's not autobiographical, because even though I grew up in the East, but the places are, I have very dear friends in Alexandria that I stay with, and there's a bike path along the Potomac,
sure.
which I just
Yeah,
absolutely
it's
love.
beautiful
It's gorgeous.
Like
So-
the towpath in Washington.
Yeah. So that's, of course, in the book. And then when he steals the bike from his mother, or I say borrows the bike, and the best dialogue, I've got to say, in the book is between the mother, who's a single mother, and this kid, not with the kid, but with her ex-husband, about where the hell is the kid.
Can you find it and read it for us?
No, I'd love to, but I'm not sure where it is.
Okay,
Maybe,
all right.
maybe.
Well, tell us your best recollection.
Well, she's panicked. The kid's supposed to be back at 10 o'clock. It's now 2 o'clock in the morning. She's going, where the hell? So she doesn't know what to do, so she decides to call her ex-husband. And of course, the new wife answers the phone and says, oh, really? Would you like to talk to him? And she's going, I'll bet you they're in bed. And so he finally comes on the phone and says, yeah, what? He's the ex-husband, and here's the wife, and the ex-wife is calling him. And so he finally says, if you can't control this kid, then, I'm sorry, I don't have nothing to say to you, And so there's this marital thing going on,
Sure.
which was a lot of fun. I think that's my best dialogue in the whole book.
Writing dialogue is very hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to put yourself there. You have to put yourself right in the conversation.
Yeah. The supposedly the most important thing in writing a novel is show, don't tell. Now that sounds easy, but it's very hard, especially, what it means is you need to dramatize. I mean, the book has got that's why adventure, romance, turmoil, discovery, And I found it very difficult to do, because especially if you have a single mother, she's muttering to herself, there's no dialogue there. But I learned a lot. I learned a great deal.
Show sounds almost like a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Graphic.
It should be a
thing.
movie. It should be a movie.
So the reader is actually seeing this.
That's right.
As if he were on the other side of the room.
Yeah. And if you just tell people, they go, okay, fine. But if you dramatize it and make it into a show, if you will, and that's why many books are, turned into movies.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will.
Yeah. Oh, yes, please.
But, I'm fascinated with the larger picture, the fact that it's hard to write a book, but it's easy to publish it, and it's hard to promote it.
That's correct.
And then people aren't reading books so much anymore
right.
anyway.
That's right.
And so what you have is a whole a whole new world around writing a
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
And it's not only the novels,
Yeah.
it's the other books. And if you don't have a market waiting for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're at great
Yeah.
risk.
Well, look at Richard Schwinn. I mean, I was shocked. I said to him, "Okay, fine. You haven't read a novel. Let me just send you the first chapter. And would you read that?" No. I mean, this is about his product, and he no.
Yeah, well,
So
who knows why, but
yeah.
anyway, I want to take a short break. Okay,
Certainly.
Dave? This is Dave Cheever. He wrote a book, Traveler, a novel. Okay, we're exploring what's inside the book and what's outside the book, affecting the book. We're having a nice time learning how to write a novel here and what it means. We'll be right back after this break.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're with Dave Cheever, and we have noticed that he is wearing the Bikeway, Honolulu.
Right.
Which is the name of a store that,
We owned for 15 years.
yes, where was it exactly?
Well, it was on. Actually, it started at Columbia Inn, and then moved to Ward, 250 Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow. Why did you give it up?
why did we? The best explanation is it's a long climb for a short slide.
Business-wise.
Yeah, I mean it's a very tough business. Everything is sized. Everything: tires, tubes, spokes, seats. And we carried two lines, Trek and Cannondale, and we calculated that if we had every size and every color and every model of those two brands,
Cost you a fortune.
we'd have about 2,500 bikes in the store.
Yeah. And you have to buy this stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
never consignment or anything
No.
like that.
And Jay Fidell comes in and says, we show him a bunch of bikes. He said, "I really want that bike." Great. Can we wrap it? No, I want it in blue. We don't have it in blue. Then I don't want it. I mean, time and again, mostly women.
Well, you know, I mean, I remember, forgive me my reminiscing, but I remember a guy named, Buster.
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 At McCully.
Yeah, well, in Waipahu.
Yes, right.
And he had a brother who was
Right.
actually a bike racer.
Yeah.
It was a Japanese name, but his brother, Takayasu. And then, of course, Ben, the son,
Yeah.
in McCully. And these guys, you know, they went to Italy.
Yeah.
And they brought back components from Italy, the best of everything. And they had a room full of this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
It amazed me.
Yeah.
And they became kind of a center for the racing community.
Right.
And in the 70s, there was a substantial racing
Yep.
community.
Yep.
But all of that went away. you know?
Almost all gone.
Yeah. And really speaking, you know, right now everybody's struggling with this multimodal transportation system and you know, what is it, neat streets and whatnot.
Complete streets.
Complete streets.
Yeah,
and, and you said you wrote part of the plan for that sort of thing?
Yeah.
But it ain't like it was, is it?
No. And you know, we're so car-centric.
Yeah.
We're so car-centric. And God bless Detroit and Tokyo, because they have told us, all of us, kids included, over and over, you deserve a car to drive wherever you want, whenever you want. And guess what? That ain't true.
Right. You should walk.
Well, and you get in traffic, you can't go wherever you want, whenever you want.
Right.
You
sit.
can't. You sit.
Look at
Yeah.
me sit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only here and in
Yeah,
Tokyo,
no,
it's in
it's
many
everywhere.
places around the world.
Yeah.
We've oversold the automobile.
Yeah, we have.
And we've
Definitely.
undersold public transportation,
Yep.
too.
Well, it's not a fair fight. My calculations are in this market, if you take all the rental cars, the gasoline companies, the tire companies, the new cars, the used cars, there's about $20 million a year spent on advertising in this little tiny market. How much is spent on public transportation? Zero. Not a fair fight. No wonder people won't get on the bus. It's down market.
It's not on their minds. They
No.
don't think about it.
No.
It's just not an option they think about.
No.
And bicycles, I think the community really, I mean, has lost touch with bicycles. It used to be really popular, and it would get you there, and you could have such a wonderful time. It was a social experience, an athletic experience.
Yeah.
And it was relatively safe to
Yeah.
what happens now.
Yeah.
But all that seems to be gone. So everybody says, "Oh, quality of life here in Hawaii.
Yeah.
We have the sun, we have the surf," and they don't go outside.
Yeah, they sit in an air-conditioned
Right.
on their couch.
Right. On their duff.
Yeah. So, but it's interesting because I did a major study of the bike business on Oahu in particular, only about Oahu, for a grant that I got to do wiki bikes.
Mm-hmm.
There are about 20,000 new bikes sold through dealers, not Kmart or Walmart, any of those.
That would be a lot more.
Yeah, a lot. Oh, yeah, great many more. About 20,000 decent bikes sold a year. Now that's a lot. That's a lot. But the market is not growing. Market's just like this.
Put it in your garage.
Yeah, or Lanai, or whatever. And when we were in business in the 15 years that we had the Bikeway, we calculated we sold probably 12,000 bicycles. And we quit in 1997, so that was some time ago. I'll bet you there aren't 200 of those bikes still working. And I own 2 of them.
How are your two doing?
Yeah, good, great.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, people just, they get enthusiastic, then they get scared, or they, get diverted, or they get on the internet, and they just, there it sits.
Big question. I just came back from New York City. I spent a fair amount of time around Grand Central Station. And right opposite, right out the door of Grand Central Station is this huge
Yeah.
bike thing, where you can
Yeah.
put a credit card
Yeah.
in and rent a bike,
Yeah.
and it works. And what's interesting about it is that on a given day, if you look at the racks that are empty as
Yeah.
against the
Yeah.
racks that are full of bikes,
Yeah.
most of the racks are empty.
Yeah.
People actually rent these things
Yeah.
and drive all over Manhattan with all that traffic.
Listen, Manhattan, New York City, Bloomberg has done a great job. Very, very good job. Now there's a backlash, now they want to get rid of some of the green lanes or whatever he put in New York. But riding a bike in New York is a great experience. I mean, I've done it. I love it.
The drivers are very alert.
Yeah.
You're not likely to get hit. You're more likely to get hit here, I think.
I think so, because we're trying to catch up with Los Angeles and New York. And in terms of rudeness and
Yeah, but people have really got to understand that bikes are part of the multimodal thing, and they don't quite do that yet. Frankly, Dave, I don't think it's going to come back anytime soon. No matter what the city says about complete streets, I don't think you're going to see thousands of people riding down the street and commuting and whatnot on bicycles.
no, I mean, why would you get out of your leather seat
Right, with your tinted
Air-
windshield.
and air conditioning and surround sound? Why would you do that? Except that a bike, what other machine can you use for exercise, for getting to work, for recreation,
Don't forget communing with nature.
communing with nature? There's nothing else. I mean, think about it. You can go into a gym and do all this kind of stuff, but you can't get to work on that machine. You can't. Is it recreation? I guess you could argue it is recreation. But I mean, when I ride bikes with my grandchildren, it is, of course, I'm kind of silly that way, but I mean, it is fantastic.
Don't you worry about falling down and breaking every bone in your body?
No, no.
Oh, just the half the bones. or getting into an accident with an inattentive driver.
Well, that's always there, and I've been riding in this town for 43 years.
That's fabulous. That's
Yeah.
you got to be the number one guy because they come, they go. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
one reason
yeah.
or another, they stop riding. And you were telling me about this fellow who, you know, he fell.
Frank Smith, yeah.
On Tantalus.
Coming
was
down
it?
Tantalus, yeah.
Which can be very fast. I mean, it's incredibly fast. I used to ride coming down Tantalus, and by the time I got to the bottom, my hands
Yeah.
were sore
Yeah.
holding on to the
Yeah.
brakes.
Well, think about, you don't need to go into a gym and do this kind of thing. Your hands,
just
your
the
hands are
brakes.
fine.
But you know, it was an unknown etiology, unknown, right? It's not known exactly what
Right.
spilled him,
Right.
and yet it happened suddenly, and
Yeah.
it was a profoundly bad
Yes,
injury.
very bad.
You worry about that?
If you know, people love to run up to me like an attorney friend of mine who does personal injury. He loves to run up to me and say, "Dave, this guy got creamed, and I'm taking." I don't want to hear about it. Please, just leave me alone. I mean, I don't want to hear about the awful things that happen because, you know. Why?
What's your mindset with drivers who are discourteous?
Well, over the 43 years, I mean, we really have lost. I know it's a cliche and it's a, you know, the aloha spirit. I mean, it used to be that, you know, you give way, wave. If you give way today, you don't get a wave. And you don't give way. It's like driving in Boston. I mean, Boston's nuts. I mean, it's crazy. You cut everybody off. And we're getting to that. My biggest disappointment in Honolulu is don't try to be like Los Angeles or New York. Let's be us and be courteous, you know. But with communications today, you know, the world has shrunk, and so we see how people treat each other in other places, and we do the same.
With all your experience in advertising, public relations, in business in general, all these bike shops for business, you know, you're a hippie, Dave.
I am?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't
you.
become. Oh, you mean this? Well, yeah. It's because I can't grow any hair on the top of my head.
I hope you keep on doing it forever.
Well, I'm, as I said, I'm 75. I think probably that, you know, if someone said to me, you know, back to the dementia thing, oh, we had to take Dad's license away from him. Now he can't drive. He's all depressed. Hell, you can have my license. I don't give a damn. Because if I've got a bike, it goes back to being 8 years old. You can't tell me I can't go anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
so, and I don't
Don't need
train.
a license to drive a bike.
No, hell no. Maybe.
So is all this in the book? I mean, do you capture
Yeah, I try to.
the fleeting, you know, the fleeting experience of the long distance bicycle rider person?
The teenager does grow up. The bike helps him grow up. And that's the story. I mean, the story is the rebellious teenager who goes off into the world to slay dragons, and doesn't know he's doing that, but he does, and he grows up.
We all have to have that kind of experience,
Yeah.
a coming of age experience.
Yeah, especially men or
Especially
boys.
men,
Yeah,
yeah.
Girls are much more
Some
mature.
of us have to have it all our lives.
Yes. Well, Walter, I have to tell you this. I'm coming down Bishop Street on my Lotus, which is a bright yellow bike, and this cattle, dark, windows, black, is right beside me, and the window slides down, and Walter Dodge leans out and says, "You still riding a bike, Cheever?" And the only thing I could think to say was, "You know, Walter, I never grew up like you." I mean,
How unkind.
well, we used to be competitive. We worked together, and then we were competitors at one time. So when I was at Bank of Hawaii, and he was across the street
Small
at First
town.
Hawaiian, yeah.
Small
So
town. Okay, that's Dave Cheever, Traveler, a novel. You can get it on Amazon.
right.
And download it
Yep.
if you like. That
Or
probably
buy
would
it
be
and-
preferable. Or buy it in hard copy.
Yeah.
And right after the show is over, I'm getting an autographed copy myself. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Dave.
Thank you. It was
Great to
great.
have this
Yeah,
discussion
nice,
with you.
nice
Aloha.
fun. Yeah, good. Yeah. So.